The boy simply warns her that if she plans something, her precious husband will die and won't even have time to blink an eye. She has little choice left, and therefore she agrees to his conditions and calmly continues the game. Our hero can only watch the show and enjoy the performance on the playing board. While the lady was struggling to pull out the right combination on the dice, sweat began to flow from her forehead. This game was too intense. She simply couldn't believe that there could be such a strong Monopoly player with such a strong gaming figurine. The girl began to think about the situation when they both find themselves on the same playing field, in which case she would not have even the slightest chance of winning against this gigachad. Of course, our main character considered that the girl was a worthy opponent, but this was not enough for him. He wanted to get much more pleasure from the game, and so he decides to play his trump card, which will definitely teach this lady a lesson that she will never forget. He is sure that when she plays Monopoly with her husband, she does not get as many emotions as she does now. She had very mixed feelings. She was shedding tears from the bitterness of defeat, and from the fact that her husband was now watching the game, but on the other hand, she had not felt so happy for a long time. Tears were already flowing from her eyes like a river, and she realized that soon she would no longer have enough oxygen. This game needed to end as quickly as possible, but even so, the thought continued to sit in her head that she did not want to stop this game, because she was pleased to play with such a strong opponent as our main character. Minsk was simply shocked when he saw with what interest and diligence she was trying to defeat him. He had not met such players for a long time who were able to fight to the very end. But suddenly he notices the evil gaze of his husband, who was sitting on the floor, and closely watching their battle on the playing board. Our hero could not understand such a reaction and considered the guy very strange because he also wanted to play. After looking at them, since all other actions do not matter, our boy decides to stick to the basic plan and therefore asks the lady to pause the gameplay for a while. He points at her with his hand and tells her to immediately get up from the playing field and come to him. A real Sigma, he says that the girl's current skin is not very suitable for giving her all in this game, and so he asks her to wear the costume of a magical creature from a fantasy game. Suddenly, the action moves to the next day, where our hero had already finished his games and was waiting for his friend, but he understood that at this rate he would definitely be late for the meeting. Suddenly, he looks up and sees in the elevator the same couple that was in his dream yesterday. The girl looked at him strangely, as if she already knew about everything. Our boy also looked at them strangely, because it was simply impossible to see a game of Monopoly in a dream, and then just calmly stand next to them. The boy looked at her carefully and thought that he was the same beautiful girl, just like in his dream, despite the fact that after the divorce he simply could not look at girls normally. But now he can look at their beautiful faces again. But suddenly this beefy guy is behind him and asks him why the hell he's smiling so strangely. In the elevator, our hero turned and asked him again, but the jock still asked him the question of why he was smiling so strangely in a public place. He cannot wait forever for our shy protagonist to decide to answer, and tells him that it is very impolite to just stand and be silent when asked questions. But suddenly a lady joins the conversation and asks her husband not to be so rude. Why does he need to create unnecessary problems? In the morning, after the elevator doors had already opened, he said that he did not want to create problems, but simply asked what was the reason for his strange smile. Finally, he says that they are just upstairs neighbors and nothing more. So our hero can sleep peacefully, but instead of falling into despair as usual, the boy begins to smile like the Joker and says that now he is no longer afraid of this guy because yesterday his girlfriend played Monopoly with him right in front of his eyes. He asked the girl with the tattoo to stop a little and not develop events so quickly because they had only recently met. Our hero remembers the words of that old man about this strange world in which he can live like the king of his own fantasies. After which he decides to kiss the girl as a sign of gratitude for the fact that she played a nice board game with him. Suddenly, they stop and our hero realizes that the big guy has returned, and the real show is about to begin. Seeing his dissatisfied face, he understands that now he is the real king here and is capable of literally anything. So he is not going to stop since this guy dared to insult his pride and hit him. Now he will repay him in the same coin and show him how to behave correctly with ladies. After the guy took out the playing board right in the elevator, everyone was shocked and the girl was pleased that he brought her favorite game with him. Now they will definitely be able to play another round. But at some point our hero realizes that the lady is holding back her strength and is not playing to her maximum, in which case he decides to start by giving her a little excitement so that the game becomes even more interesting than before. Our hero also enjoyed this game and thought about how he could make the Monopoly even more interesting. He was pleased that he had not met a worthy opponent for so long, and it also turned out to be such a beautiful woman. The surprising thing is that his opponent ended up being his upstairs neighbor, whom he usually didn't pay attention to. An interesting twist of fate. It had been a long time since he felt such excitement before each throw of the dice, as if he had been born again and began to experience sensations in a new way. Our hero could not believe that the game was going so smoothly. He was getting exactly the values on the dice that he needed. Or this feeling was only because he had not played with a worthy opponent for a long time. The boy, out of habit, was going to ask if he could build a house on her territory. But at the last moment he changed his mind, because he is the owner of this game and can do whatever he wants. Her husband was still watching the game and his face was filled with horror. Mincy especially set up a situation in which he could take revenge on his offender by playing Monopoly with his wife. Finally, this terrible nightmare has stopped and the girl calmly admits defeat. Our boy turned out to be a really strong player. She looks at our main character strangely, which makes him wonder what the hell. Suddenly, it comes as close to him as possible and says a phrase that they won't tell us yet. But judging by his facial expression, there was something intriguing there. So let's continue our story. The dream gradually begins to disappear, but finally, the girl with the dragon tattoo manages to say the phrase doji, after which our hero heard nothing. Minseek wakes up covered in cold sweat and has a red face, completely not understanding what the hell just happened to him. He stands up sharply and remembers her phrase, thinking that she had a cryptocurrency called Dogecoin. For those who don't know, this is almost the same as Bitcoin, only from a different company. After such an interesting dream, the boy wakes up feeling thirsty and drinks almost a whole bottle of water. At the same time, he remembers his adventures in the fantasy world and thinks that there he was, just an incredibly cool dude who beat that bumpkin and played Monopoly with his wife. Suddenly, he starts smiling like some kind of schizophrenic and says that it was not just a dream, but a real reality. While he was getting ready for business in the morning, he thought that if he managed to enter that dream on the advice of the old man, then those coins that he was talking about should also soon rise in price. He also decided to look at the Dogecoin rate and saw that it was extremely unstable. The rate either rose or fell to low. Still, he decides to buy himself some currency. The dream he had today, and it cost no less than 100,000 won. Wanting to go into the elevator, he met that married couple again. But this time the pumped-up dude was already afraid of him. It's strange because all those actions took place in a dream. At one point, the guy completely loses control of himself and just starts yelling at the whole house as if he saw a ghost. His wife tries to calm him down a little. Our hero cannot understand what the hell is happening to this big guy. Why? He is shaking as if everything that happened yesterday in a dream actually happened. His lady love wants to know the reason for his fear, but he replies that he just had a terrible dream that he can't forget. Having heard the word dream, our boy understands that the reason for his fear is still that wonderful dream with his wife. At just one glance at our hero, he begins to shake and whine like a dog driven into a corner. Minsk behaves very creepily with a smile like a maniac. He asks this freak if they really had the same dream today. Suddenly, the girl says that our hero is behaving uncivilly because yesterday he already caused a lot of problems. She wanted to ask him for forgiveness, but after that he can forget about it. Minsk's face has finally become normal, judging by how calmly the lady with red hair behaves. She still does not know that he and her husband had the same dream in which they were playing Monopoly. Still, she asks for forgiveness for the fact that her husband behaves so strangely.